Have you ever felt like you're being watched, even when you're alone? Lena didn't believe in ghosts. She didn't believe in curses. But when she moved into her new house, she saw something in the attic window. A shadow. A figure. Watching. At first, she thought it was just her imagination. Until the sightings became more frequent. Until she heard whispers in the dark. Until she realized it wasn't just watching. It was waiting. And once you see it, it never leaves. This is the watcher in the window. And if you're watching this, it might already be watching you. Sit back and watch, like and subscribe, and also let me know which country you are watching from in the comment section. Let's go. Lena Thompson had always believed in fresh starts. That's why she was here, standing in front of the old Victorian house on Grayson Street, clutching the keys to her new life. The house was beautiful in a way that only old things could be. Tall and elegant, with a wraparound porch and intricate wooden carvings on the railings. It had been sitting empty for a long time, which explained the low price. The real estate agent had mentioned something about its history, but Lena hadn't paid much attention. All she cared about was that it was hers. But as she stood there, staring up at the house, something made her uneasy. It was the window. At the very top of the house, on the 3rd floor, was a single round window. It was different from the others, smaller and isolated, as if it had been added as an afterthought. And even though she knew it was impossible, Lena had the strangest feeling that someone was staring back at her from inside. She shook herself. "You're just tired." Taking a deep breath, she pushed open the front door and stepped inside. The inside of the house smelled of dust and forgotten memories. The wooden floors creaked beneath her feet as she explored. There was a large living room with a fireplace, a narrow staircase leading upstairs, and a kitchen that still had an old-fashioned stove in the corner. It was perfect. She spent the rest of the afternoon unpacking, trying to ignore the strange heaviness in the air. Maybe it was just the house settling. Maybe she just wasn't used to being alone. As evening fell, she went out to grab dinner from a nearby cafe. When she returned, she had to stop herself from glancing up at the 3rd floor window, but she couldn't help it. And what she saw made her stomach drop. There was something there, a shadow, a shape, standing inside the window, watching. She blinked, her heart pounding, but when she looked again, the window was empty. Lena let out a nervous laugh. "It's just your imagination, a trick of the light." Still, she hurried inside and locked the door. She told herself she wasn't scared, but she made sure to check all the locks twice before going to bed. That night, Lena awoke to a sound. Thump. Her eyes snapped open. Thump, thump. It was coming from above her. She lay frozen, her breath caught in her throat. She was on the 2nd floor, which meant the sound was coming from the 3rd floor. The footsteps were slow, deliberate. Someone was walking up there. Her mind raced. Is someone in the house? No, that was impossible. She had locked all the doors. She was alone, wasn't she? She reached for her phone, debating whether to call the police. But then, silence. The footsteps stopped. Lena lay there for a long time, staring at the ceiling, listening. Nothing. She tried to convince herself it had just been the house settling. But deep down, she knew the truth. She wasn't alone. The next morning, Lena decided to check the 3rd floor. She hadn't explored it yet. The real estate agent had told her it was just an old storage space, nothing special. The door at the top of the stairs was slightly open. Had she left it like that? She pushed it open and stepped inside. The room was empty, except for a few old pieces of furniture covered in white sheets. Dust floated in the air, disturbed by her movements. The round window let in a dull gray light, making everything look washed out and lifeless. She walked over to the window and tried to open it. It was already unlocked. A chill ran down her spine. She was sure she had locked all the windows last night. Frowning, she latched it shut and turned to leave. That's when she noticed something. The closet door on the far side of the room, it was open just a crack. Lena's breath hitched. She could feel something beyond that door. Something waiting. She forced herself to walk over and yank it open. The closet was empty, just an old wooden floor, cobwebs, and dust. Lena let out a nervous laugh. She was being ridiculous. She was letting her imagination get the best of her. Shaking her head, she closed the closet door. Then she turned and shut the door to the 3rd floor, locking it with a firm click. She would never go up there again. Or so she thought, because that night, the door opened on its own. Lena was asleep when the creak of the door woke her. Her room was dark, but she could hear it. The door to the third floor, slowly creaking open. Her heart pounded as she sat up in bed, every muscle in her body tense. She didn't want to look, but she did. And there, at the top of the stairs, standing in the darkness, a figure, tall, thin, motionless, watching her. Lena's breath caught in her throat. The figure didn't move, didn't breathe, just stood there. She scrambled for her phone, but when she looked back, it was gone. Her chest rose and fell in shaky breaths. Had she imagined it? No, because when she found the courage to check the third floor in the morning, the window was open again, and on the glass were fingerprints, not hers. Lena tried to tell herself it was nothing. Maybe she had left the window unlocked by mistake. Maybe the fingerprints were old, left behind by whoever had lived here before. But deep down she knew. She wasn't alone in the house. She could feel it. The next few days were quiet, but the feeling never left. She would catch herself glancing toward the third floor door, always expecting to see it slightly open. Every time she passed the staircase, she felt a chill at the back of her neck, as if unseen eyes were following her. Then, one night, the silence was broken by a whisper, a soft, breathy voice that slid through the darkness like a cold hand on her skin. Lena. Her blood ran cold. The voice came from above her, from the third floor. Lena squeezed her eyes shut, forcing herself to breathe. She was dreaming, she had to be. But then she heard it again. Lena. She shot up in bed, her heart hammering against her ribs. The air was heavy, thick with something unseen. Then, creak. Her bedroom door was opening. Lena's breath caught in her throat. Her fingers fumbled for the bedside lamp, but her hands were shaking too much. Creak. Her bedroom door was opening. Lena's breath caught in her throat. Her fingers fumbled for the bedside lamp, but her hands were shaking too much. Creak. It opened another inch. She couldn't move. Something was standing just beyond the doorway. She could feel it. A presence, a weight in the air. Slowly she reached for her phone. If she could just turn on the flashlight. Then the door slammed shut. Lena gasped. Silence. Heavy. Unbearable. Then, footsteps, moving away, heading upstairs, toward the third floor. The next morning, Lena was exhausted. She hadn't slept after what happened. She wanted to believe she had imagined it, but the fear still clung to her, thick and suffocating. She needed proof that she wasn't going crazy. So that night, she did something she had been avoiding. She stepped outside and looked up at the window. Her stomach dropped. There it was. A figure, tall, motionless, pressed against the glass of the third floor window. It had no face, no features, just a shadowy hollow where a face should be. Watching her, Lena's body went ice cold. She ran back inside, locking the door behind her. This wasn't just a trick of the light. This wasn't just her imagination. Something was in her house, and it was watching her. Lena had had enough. She grabbed a hammer and nails from the kitchen and stormed up the stairs. She didn't care how ridiculous it seemed. She was going to nail that third floor door shut. The air grew colder the higher she climbed. By the time she reached the top, she was shivering. She forced herself to step closer. The door was closed, but the air behind it felt wrong, like something was waiting on the other side. Ignoring the fear clawing at her throat, she lifted the first nail, and the door burst open. A freezing wind rushed out, slamming into her like a wave. Lena stumbled back, dropping the hammer. The room was empty, but she could feel it. The presence, watching, waiting. And the window? It was open again. That night, Lena locked herself in her bedroom. She wedged a chair under the doorknob and left every light on. She wouldn't sleep. She couldn't. Not after what had happened. But at 3:13 a.m., she heard them. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate. Coming from the third floor. She gripped her blanket, heart pounding. The footsteps reached the top of the stairs. And then, they started coming down. One step at a time. Closer. Closer. Lena held her breath. The footsteps stopped, right outside her bedroom door. For a long, horrible moment, there was nothing but silence. Then, the doorknob turned. Lena's body went rigid. The chair under the knob rattled slightly. She pressed a hand over her mouth, fighting the urge to scream. Then, the whisper came again. "Why won't you look?" Lena squeezed her eyes shut. The air around her grew colder, pressing in on her like an invisible weight. Then, just as suddenly as it started, it stopped. The presence was gone, But she knew one thing for sure. This wasn't over. It was just getting started. Lena didn't sleep that night. Even after the footsteps had stopped, even after the doorknob went still, she had stayed awake, her back pressed against the headboard, waiting for something worse. But morning came, and with it, a decision. She had to find out what was happening in this house. Something was here with her. Something that knew her name. And she needed to know why. Lena started her search at the local library. She hadn't looked into the history of the house before buying it. She hadn't cared. But now, she had to know who had lived there before her. She scanned through old newspaper archives, flipping through decades of forgotten news. The house had been built in the late 1800s, originally owned by the Holloway family. But the further she read, the deeper the pit in her stomach grew. Because there was something wrong with this house. People who lived there went missing. One article from 1924 spoke of a woman named Eleanor Holloway, last seen staring out of the third-floor window before vanishing without a trace. Another from 1957 reported a man who had rented the house for a few months. He had told neighbors about strange noises upstairs, whispers calling his name. Then one night, he disappeared. His belongings were left untouched. The only thing out of place? His bedroom door was wide open. Lena's hands trembled as she turned the pages. Then she found the worst one, a report from 10 years ago. A man named Victor Holloway, the last known resident of the house. Lena's breath hitched as she read his final words, recorded in an old interview before he vanished. "Something is watching me. It waits at the window, it calls my name, it wants me to see it. And soon, I will." Lena had to see it for herself. If Victor Holloway had lived in her house, maybe he had left something behind. So that night she forced herself to go back to the third floor. The door was closed, locked, just like she had left it. But as soon as she stepped forward, the lock clicked open on its own. Lena shuddered but pushed inside. The room was just as she remembered it, dusty, cold, empty, except for the closet. The door was ajar again, and inside, a box. Lena swallowed hard as she knelt and pulled it out. Dust coated the top, but when she wiped it away, she saw something carved into the lid. A single word. C. Her heart pounded. She lifted the lid. Inside was a journal. The name on the cover made her breath catch in her throat. Victor Holloway. She flipped it open. The pages were filled with frantic, messy handwriting. The first few entries were normal. Victor writing about moving into the house, fixing things up. Then the tone changed. "I hear it at night, footsteps above me, whispers in the walls. It waits at the window, I see it sometimes, a shape in the glass, it doesn't move, but I know it sees me. I tried to leave, but I can't. The house won't let me, the door won't open, my car won't start, it wants me here. I think I know what it wants. It wants me to see it." Lena's fingers shook as she flipped to the last page. "I looked tonight, I finally looked. It's not a ghost, not a person, it's something else. It's always been here, and now it has me." The final line was scrawled so violently the pen had torn through the page. "Don't look at it." Lena slammed the book shut, her heart racing. Victor had seen it, whatever it was, and then he had disappeared. She needed to leave. Now. She shoved the journal back into the box and turned. And froze. The closet door was wide open. A deep, bone-chilling cold filled the air. Lena's breath came out in visible puffs. Slowly she turned toward the window, and there, not hers, a reflection. Not hers, something else. Behind her, tall, wrong. Its face was nothing but a black void, shifting and hollow, like a mask stretched over emptiness. Lena's body locked up. She couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The figure tilted its head. Then, in a voice that came from everywhere and nowhere, it whispered, "Now you see me." The lights went out. Darkness swallowed the room. Lena's breath came fast and shallow. Her hands trembled as she reached for her phone. Nothing. The screen was dead. A shiver ran down her spine. The cold in the attic deepened, pressing into her skin like unseen hands. The air was thick, suffocating. She wasn't alone. Somewhere in the dark, it was there, watching. A whisper slid through the air. "Now you see me." Lena's stomach clenched. The words weren't spoken aloud, they weren't even in her ears, they were inside her head. She had to move, had to get out. Her body screamed at her to run, but fear rooted her in place. Then, thump, a slow, deliberate step. Thump, closer. Her heart pounded against her ribs. The air grew even colder. The darkness pressed in, shifting, stretching. Then, A hand brushed her shoulder. Cold, wrong, not human. Lena whipped around. For a split second, she saw it. A tall, twisted figure, not flesh, not shadow. Its body flickered like it wasn't fully real, yet its presence was overwhelming. And its face, or where a face should have been, nothing. Just a hollow void, a space of emptiness. Then it lurched toward her. Lena screamed. Blind panic took over. She stumbled backward, hitting the closet door. Her fingers grasped the wooden edge, desperate for anything to hold on to. Run. Every part of her mind screamed the word. Her legs finally obeyed. She bolted down the attic stairs, through the dark hallway. The walls seemed to stretch, making the distance between her and safety longer. The air was thick, pressing against her like invisible hands, trying to hold her back. The stairs felt endless, her vision blurred, and then she burst into the living room. Light, warm, golden light from the street lamp outside. The feeling of being watched faded slightly, but something was wrong. The front door, wide open. Lena's stomach dropped. She hadn't left it open. Slowly, she stepped forward. The night outside was too quiet, like the world had stopped breathing. She reached for the door, ready to slam it shut. Then she saw it, at the edge of the yard, standing beneath the glow of the street lamp. The watcher. Lena's hands shook as she gripped the door frame. The watcher stood perfectly still, not moving, not breathing, just staring. She should have been able to see its features in the light, but there was nothing, no face, just a void, a deep, endless emptiness. And yet, she knew it was watching her. A sickening realization crept into her mind. It wasn't trapped in the attic. It never had been. It could go wherever it wanted. The only thing keeping it away was light. She stepped back. Her foot hit something. She turned. The living room lights were flickering. No. The shadows in the corners of the room deepened. Like something was moving through them. Something was inside. The watcher was no longer at the street lamp. Lena slammed the door shut, but she knew it wouldn't matter. It was already here. The air inside the house changed. It felt thicker, heavier, like she had stepped into deep, black water. Lena's breath came in short gasps. She needed light, now. Her fingers fumbled for the lamp switch. She flicked it. Nothing. The bulb was dead. A whisper drifted through the air, soft as silk. "You looked at me." Lena froze. The voice came from right behind her. She turned, heart hammering, but there was nothing there. Then, a soft creak, the sound of a footstep, coming from the hallway. Lena's stomach twisted. She had locked her bedroom door. She had wedged a chair under the knob. But now, the door was wide open. Darkness spilled out. A presence loomed in the shadows, waiting. Lena took a step back. Her foot touched something on the floor. She looked down. A piece of paper, torn from Victor Holloway's journal. A single line was scrawled across it in shaking, frantic handwriting. "Once you see it, it never leaves." Lena's breath hitched. The air shifted. A shadow moved. And then, the lights went out. Darkness swallowed everything. Lena's heartbeat pounded in her ears. The air was thick, suffocating. The house wasn't just silent, it was waiting. She wasn't alone. Somewhere in the pitch-black room, it was there, watching. Then, a slow, deliberate whisper, "You can't hide." Lena clenched her fists, forcing herself to breathe. Light. She needed light. Her hands scrambled across the table, searching. She found her phone, clicked the power button. Dead. Then, from the hallway, a footstep, soft, unhurried. Coming closer, Lena didn't wait. She bolted. Her hands found the couch, the table, the wall. She stumbled through the dark, feeling her way to the door. She reached for the knob, and froze. It was ice cold. Something was on the other side. Waiting. She yanked her hand back. The air shifted. The darkness moved. Then, bang, the door slammed shut on its own. Lena gasped, stumbling backward. Her pulse hammered in her throat. She was trapped. And then, from the shadows behind her, a breath. Right, behind her. "You looked at me." A hand gripped her wrist. Lena screamed. The grip was ice cold, pulling her back into the shadows. She fought, twisted, broke free. She ran. The attic. She didn't know why, but she ran up. Something in her gut told her the answers were there. She took the stairs two at a time, crashing into the attic door. It was already open. Inside, the room was eerily still. The only thing that looked untouched was the window. The same round window where she had seen it standing. The same window where all the missing people had last been seen. Victor's words echoed in her head. "It waits at the window. It wants me to see it." Lena's stomach turned. She knew what she had to do. She had to look. Really look. She turned, facing the window, and saw, her breath hitched. The reflection, not hers, something else, something inhuman. The watcher was there, not behind her. In the glass itself, it had never been a ghost, never been a person. It was part of the house, part of the window, a doorway. And it was open. The darkness rippled. The figure in the reflection tilted its head. Then, it stepped forward and crawled out of the glass. Lena stumbled back. The watcher emerged from the window, a shape shifting between shadow and reality. It towered over her, impossibly tall, its featureless face bending toward hers. It wasn't attacking, it was waiting. For what? Then she realized. The window, it was still open, and she knew. This thing only existed if someone saw it. The moment someone looked away, it disappeared. Victor Holloway had tried to resist, but in the end he had looked too long. Lena had only one chance. She took a deep, shaky breath, and did the one thing her instincts screamed against. She shut her eyes. The air trembled around her. The darkness shivered. The watcher moved, but she didn't look. No matter how much she felt it looming over her, no matter how close it got, she kept her eyes shut tight. A deep, hollow whisper slithered through the air. "Don't turn away." Lena clenched her fists. It was lying. Seconds stretched into eternity. Then, the cold lifted. The air lightened. The pressure around her vanished. Lena cracked her eyes open. The attic was empty. The watcher was gone. She turned to the window. For the first time, it reflected only her. Lena didn't waste time. She ran downstairs, grabbed her car keys, and bolted for the front door. This time it opened. The house had let her go. She didn't stop running until she was in her car, engine roaring to life. She peeled away from the house, never looking back. The watcher was gone, and she was free. A month later, the house was listed for sale again. The new owner toured it with the real estate agent, admiring the old architecture. They stopped in the attic. The window glowed in the evening sun. The new owner smiled. "What a beautiful view," they said. Then, for just a second, in the glass, something moved. Thanks for watching. Like, share, and subscribe.